God's Thunder, Mifflin Scranton, Meredith Palmer Memorial, Celebrity Rabies Awareness Fun Run Race for the Cure. This is Pam. Pro-Am race for the... They hung up.
Listen, two main ways they're going to keep us all in control. That's how they're thinking. Keep the people scared and keep them fucking confused.
We have raised almost $700, most of it for me and Jan. When do they put that on the giant check? Or is that something that we write in later?
Well, a giant check costs about $200 to make up. I have a print shop standing by, but what do you think, Michael? That's over 25% of our funds.
I was also hoping to hand the giant check to a rabies doctor. How's that going?
Not well. A doctor won't come out to collect a check for $700 or $500 if we go with the giant check. And also, there is no such thing as a rabies doctor.
Or a rabies nurse.
Organise truth, so truth is no longer an absolute, it's just somebody's fucking opinion. Make people scared to talk to each other in case they're arguing against the wrong person and get fucking the wrong end of being shot.
This is the reason we're here.
Hello, Michael.
Oh, hey, I know you. Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Right? Wow. Very cool you went back and got your degree. I would like you to accept this check for $340 made out to science. Make sure that that gets into the right hands. Great.
And I'd like to dedicate this one to Punks for Progress. Punks for Progress. This is for our comrades of Punks for Progress.
Punks for Progress, stand for anarchy. Fight for your liberty. We don't want your government. We don't need your services. I'm an anarchist. I'm an anarchist.
Punks for Progress on YouTube and Facebook. Thanks, brother.
That sounds right up my alley.
It's always a good day when you hear a punk say the word righteous.
Hey, welcome to Punks for Progress. I'm Reverend Aaron. I'm here with Kylie the Krankenschwester, and we're doing a weekly What the Fuck report for the first time in nearly a year. Hopefully it won't be a whole year in between weeks for the weekly What the Fuck report. We do intend on doing this every week. So let's get into it. What are we doing on this week's What the Fuck report? Well, we're going to start with a couple recurring segments, and we're going to do Kylie the Krankenschwester sort of health watch rant, and we're also going to do Reverend on things that I'm sort of working on or hot about, week to week. This week, I'm going to be discussing a series of videos that I just started scripting out on media literacy, and I have a theory that the reason we're all seriously screwed up and can't get along and so totally polarized is not necessarily because of social media, but I believe it's our relationship to social media and the way we're interacting with it is causing a lot of this. And not that I can fix it all, I'm just some old anarchist punk rocker, but I have some ideas about maybe the way we can rethink the way we all interact with social media. So we're going to do that, and we're going to have the Reverend on that. We're going to have Kylie the Krankenschwester's Health Watch, but we're also in segment 2, we're going to be bringing in So-Cal Shannon, and she's got a few things that she's going to be talking about with us. We're going to be discussing her exhaustive efforts in a GoFundMe for our comrade Ahmed, who is stuck in Gaza with his children, and she's managed to raise quite a bit of money to help get him out. And she's just had to jump through 1,000,005 really frustrating hoops, trying just to get this to our comrade Ahmed and help him get him and his children and his family into Egypt. And then she's going to talk about, she's got a couple clips that she's going to bring with us and talk about other relief efforts and struggles to get relief into Gaza itself for the other people there. And, of course, she will be doing a So-Cal Shannon Scene Report, which we will be doing weekly. And, you know, if you're an old viewer from Punks for Progress, you know that she'll let us know what's going on with upcoming street actions and demos and punk rock shows and stuff like that. So we have that. And then finally, we'll have her stick around and we'll discuss some current events, like what's going on with the election. I want to do a recurring segment where we discuss J6 defendants and, like, you know, their sentencing and what's going on in their hearings and stuff. Maybe pick 1 or 2 each week and discuss it. So yeah, we have a really jam-packed show. And in between all that stuff, we'll be playing like clips of live punk rock shows and stuff that we've been to and filmed at. So
awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
Nice. I said all that. And since I did, maybe we should just play this Dr. Maddvibes video featuring Angelo Moore from Fishbone. And then we'll come back and we'll get into segment 1. We'll hear about what Kylie's concerned about in terms of Health Watch. And then we'll get into Rev's rant. And then we'll just go from there. So check out this punk rock video. And then we'll be right back. Hey fam, welcome back. Punks for Progress, weekly What the Fuck report. I'm Reverend Aaron. That there's Kylie the Krankenschwester. This is my rudimentary P&I coffee mug. The coffee's not as good as the mug. Anyway, so we're going to talk about a couple things in this segment. First, we got Health Watch, issues that Kylie the Krankenschwester is concerned with. So we're going to talk about that for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then we're going to do Reverend, stuff that I'm working on and am concerned with. So, Kylie, what in the hell is going on with people who, for whatever reason or another, are incapable of sort of taking ownership of their own legal, they lose their mental capacity, say, while they're, and they don't have anything set up to deal with that. It kind of creates sort of this weird gray zone or something. Sorry to use terms like gray zone, because fuck those guys at the gray zone. Tanky sellouts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, this issue only comes up. I mean, it's topical because I've had a few patients recently that have been in this situation, and I've had them taking care of patients like this over my career, but patients who are stuck in the hospital because they don't have a safe discharge plan. And I'm grateful that we have the opportunity, that they have that ability to be in the hospital for food and shelter and care. But it's going to drive up healthcare costs for everybody if we don't address this problem, right? Or it already has. And so if it's not addressed, other people can get blamed for higher costs of healthcare. But anyway, it's patients who come into the hospital who definitely were admitted for a very critical issue, medical issue, but that eventually gets resolved and it's time to discharge. And they have nowhere to go, or they are someone who can't walk without not only a walker, but somebody nearby because they will fall. And they don't have those resources available, or they don't have family willing or able to take care of them. And in our society, it defaults to family to be the primary caretakers in old age, or when there's a handicap, or when there's a disability. That's kind of like built into our society as an expectation, not really resource-wise, but an expectation that your next of kin will take care of you when you need it. But that should not be an assumption anymore. Again, because of either people's willingness or their own lack of resources. Anyway, so we have these people in the hospital who are residents of the hospital because we can't find placement for them. There are facilities available that provide short-term rehab, and they can be covered by health insurance. And so in order to get into a facility like that, usually you need to prove that you have health insurance and that your health insurance is going to cover it. They want to get paid. But also, in addition to that, they want to know what your plan is after you get there and you get rehabilitated. Where are you going to go? So we've run into problems where these short-term rehab facilities won't even take patients that need to go there because they don't have somewhere to go afterwards, because they know they're going to get stuck with the patient, right? And so here we are. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's back up just a little bit. So even before they get to that point, let's say they don't need, that's just not an option at all, the short-term care facility. What is the hospital going to do? There is no next of kin. There is no potential facility. What if they don't have insurance? Like, what happens? Does the hospital just, wheel them out to the front sidewalk?
Yeah, it depends on the hospital. It depends on if they have an ethics committee. It depends on their budget that year. It depends on staffing. It depends how rude the patient is. It depends on their criminal record. I mean, unfortunately, I've seen these things dictate what happens to the patient. So there are situations where people get wheeled out to the front door. I mean, you have nowhere to go, but if they've been deemed, they have the facilities to find food if they need it, to find shelter if they need it.
And let's just be clear. Let's be really clear here. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we're talking about in these situations, wheeling someone out to the sidewalk. who doesn't have the ability to take care of themselves. Maybe they don't even are aware that they exist on the planet at this point. And on top of that, they have underlying serious medical health issues.
So I should say that...
I think that in a lot of these situations, may be lucky if they have the mental capacity to find their way under the bridge to sleep by a rock.
So that's where the nursing advocacy comes in. That's where nursing advocacy comes in. And you have to say to the administrators, doctors are usually in agreement, like, okay, this person could not survive out there on their own without coming back to the emergency room. It's an equivalent safety net to prison. It's our only two safety nets we have in America are prison and the emergency room. But anyway, so from a nursing perspective and from a hospital perspective, they would say, okay, no, if we deem them that they can't, either don't have capacity or don't have the ability to get the resources that they need, they're going to stay in the hospital. But at whose cost? At what cost? And again, it's about $5,000 a day out of pocket to pay for the hospital, whatever basic services they provide, which the hospital knows that this patient's not going to pay that, no matter how many debt collectors, 10 years down the road. So anyway, so the hospital has an interest in getting them out of there. Anyway, so there are built-in things in our society as far as next steps. So they do take time, but you can petition to have somebody receive a conservatorship. So that would be a legally designated person or entity that makes decisions on their behalf, ideally from a non-biased standpoint. But that takes a court order, that takes a judge to do that. But it does happen, and that would be the road we go down.
So let's stop on that for a second, okay? You alluded to there being a court process and whatever. Normally, it seems like it's a pretty exhaustive and intensive process to pick someone to be in charge of your life when you're no longer capable of being in charge of it yourself. And in these situations, we're just willy-nilly picking someone at the last minute so we can figure out what to do in this. Am I on to something here, or am I? Maybe let's talk a little bit about how you become a conservator, and then let's say in the best case scenario, becoming a conservator, as opposed to this last minute, we can't afford to keep this person in the hospital every day. Let's get somebody in here. Be conservative.
Yeah. So from the moment someone comes in the emergency room, we're always trying to find their next of kin, their emergency contact, who needs to be updated. And with relative to health decisions, do we need to put this person on a ventilator? Do we do chest compressions? Do we save their lives? The person comes in from a motor vehicle accident, even if they're 25 and they can't speak for themselves, we try to reach the next of kin. And there is a legal line of progression as far as who to contact. As far as someone who's 25 and not married, it would not default to a live-in girlfriend or boyfriend. It would default to a parent or a legally aged child, right? And so you get into those situations where, no, we've been together for 20 years. I should make medical decisions for my boyfriend, but legally, you're not married. So guess what? We have to find your next of blood kin. When it comes to medical decisions, I'm assuming because they're so timely, we can default to just a verbal over the phone. I'm her daughter. I say save her life. I will be there tomorrow, and we can talk more about that. But bigger than that, with financial issues, signing legal documents of who's going to get paid for what facilities, that is a legal responsibility. So that is when a court or a lawyer needs to get involved. If it's something that's been taken care of beforehand, right, before that 25-year-old got in the car accident or before the 75-year-old had a stroke, they had a legal document that designates someone as power of attorney. When they had their capacities, they signed it and said, if I am ever unable to provide for myself or make my own decisions, I designate so-and-so, whether it's a next of kin or a neighbor or a friend or a boyfriend, whatever. As long as that's been signed when they had capacity beforehand, that's legally binding. We love that. Thank you. Thank you for thinking ahead, because it's too late if you've lost your capacity.
How many 25-year-olds are even, this is even on their radar? I mean, I don't want to speak for everybody, my experience being relative to everyone, but when I was 25, I was fucking indestructible. I mean, the last thing I was thinking was, there's going to be a point in my life where I'm not in control of my faculties and I need to pick someone to, hell no. I'm like, drive faster, do more pot and alcohol. Like, I wasn't even thinking that way, And
sure. And the answers to these questions are pretty obvious when it is a 25-year-old. Oh, they have the rest of their life to live. We need to save their life. We need to preserve their finances. We need to send them to a long-term rehab to get rehabilitation. The unfortunate situation is that people who are 55, 65, 75, 85 still think that way. I'm indestructible. I don't need to set up anyone to take care of my finances. I don't need any second name on my bank accounts. I don't need da-da-da-da-da. And
who are you to tell me I'm not in control of my... Yeah, I'm getting closer to that scenario where, like, don't tell me I can't do it. I'm 179 years old. And I've been doing this since before the big one. Yeah, and reluctant to let someone be that person, because in a way that's saying, hey, I have less control over things than I'm comfortable admitting, right?
Yeah. And it coincides a lot of behavioral issues with these long-term patients in the hospital. They've lost control. We're keeping them confined to a room. They want to go home. But they fall at home. Their family, they've had drama with their family, and the family doesn't want to take care of them, or they don't have the resources to. And anyway, I don't know what. Sure. Okay. So let's turn the page onto what advice do I have or recommendations. And I think it's, back to the basics of everyone's going to die, including you. And I'm talking to everybody. Be prepared for it, right? Be prepared for these types of situations where you can't make your own decisions. And even if you feel like you have nothing to pass on, or you need to have someone you trust that has access to your resources, because you might be stuck in a hospital bed, paralyzed one day. And then bigger than that, from a societal perspective, and even a government perspective, we need to do so much more to take care of elderly. Medicare is not enough. Sure, we have Medicare, but Medicare does not cover housing. It does not cover food. It does not cover. It gives you a little bit of, it's a health insurance program, but it's not a pension type program that's set up to care for people who have lived a great life, contributed to society or not contributed to society, but either way deserve to have dignity in their last years. There's very few programs, and they're usually run by individual states that have budgets for long-term health insurance for these types of patients who have nowhere to go. What do you do with them?
So maybe you may or may not have the answer to this question, but do you know of any type of resources for, people on low incomes and the people in the poverty line? A lot of poor people in the country who don't have a family doctor or whatever, or maybe I'm thinking where I live in Reno, there's a hot clinic, maybe that, I don't even know, would they be able to go and establish something? I mean, is there services available to people who are on the poor spectrum? Do you even know? Because if you're middle class or you're upper middle class and you have, your family doctor,
you have your family lawyer, and
you can just sit down with your family doctor and say, hey, I want to talk about this stuff, and then you can work it out. But if you don't have any of that, you don't even have health insurance. Maybe you're working, maybe you're an Uber driver and you work part-time in a kitchen washing dishes somewhere, and you don't have any goddamn insurance.
Unfortunately,
are you aware of any type of service out there to help facilitate these people making these types of decisions?
I mean, that's where state Medicaid comes in. Sure. Okay. So if you don't have health insurance and you roll into the emergency room, the hospital is going to say, well, we'll help you sign up for Medicaid so that we get paid. Right. And so the hospital does proactively try to get people onto Medicaid as soon as we find out they don't have insurance. The unfortunate thing is Medicaid differs from county to county, let alone state to state. It's usually a 30-day application process before you can get onto, but that's just to be a card-carrying insurance holder, really. It's really not super beneficial except for peace of mind to be able to hand over that card at registration that you have health insurance. But I've seen many a case where patients with less than ideal resources leave the hospital because they have to go back to work. I don't care if I'm sick. I don't care. I care that I'm sick. I care that my toe has gangrene. But if I don't drive the next 5 days on my Uber route, like I won't be able to pay my rent, and then I'm going to have bigger problems, And so there are very few resources to cover people for their financial needs while they're in the hospital. Right. Unless it's a defaulted family assumption, right? Oh, well, always, I have an aunt or I have a son or I have a this or that, but very, unfortunately, that's can't be assumed or can't be expected in every situation.
Yeah,
I'll keep looking. We keep advocating.
Yeah. I mean, but it's just, I'm sure, going to be a recurring theme for these segments in the upcoming shows, but it's just another example of how our healthcare system is not about healing sick people at all. Like each sick person is a commodity. They're a potential dollar sign. That's it. And like, even like the stuff that Bernie was suggesting back in 2016, 8 fucking years ago, where we almost had a conversation about healthcare, still wasn't even enough. It still wasn't going to tackle all of these issues. Expanded Medicaid would have been better, but it wouldn't solve these issues. And, I think another recurring theme you're going to hear on every episode coming forward is this is a massive failing of capitalism. We have allowed the profit incentive to completely take over every aspect of our lives. Like, until we have a capitalist, anti-capitalist revolution, until the masses rise up and say we're done with this economic system, these problems are going to persist. And we're going to be...
It's a value... Yeah.
Go ahead.
The value's on money. It's not on... to help us have a conversation about all of this, like, as a society, we need to say we value life and we value quality of life. We value 80-year-olds who still have the ability to, own their own houses or whatever, instead we talk about profit and money and budgets. And so I think, again, to redirect or to pull attention away from capitalism, you've got to have different values. And what are they? Sure. So as a society, what are they? And they're very usually empty promises when they are talked about in our day and age. Values that aren't money related.
And they'll pull out the latest popular scapegoat, whether it's critical race theory or look at the wokes or look at a trans person in sports. There's out of every 1,000 different high school level sports program, for every 1,000 there's maybe one kid that's trans that wants to play, but it does a really good job of distracting the average person with that fear of that trans kid to not think about what's going to happen when I lose my fucking marbles and can't pay my health insurance and they fucking drop me off on the sidewalk in front of the hospital. Don't think about that. Oh my gosh, they're going to teach slavery in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds so ridiculous that it's not that obvious. It's that obvious and simple. In every situation, the right-wing media sphere, that's their whole entire job, whether it's Fox News or the Daily Wire or Blaze or that fucking dumbass motherfucker, Patrick Bet-David. God, what a dumb motherfucker.
I don't know about that.
I know. Well, he's a dude who made a bunch of money in real estate or some shit or investment banking. And then because he made shit tons of money and then bought a building, literally bought a building to do podcasting, bought an old bank. and has all this money to throw around and get a lot of top level guests. And because he wrote a book, something like, the next 5 fucking things you do. Every one of these jackasses writes the next 5 steps. And he wrote one of those dumbass books and thinks he's a freaking political genius because he can regurgitate the things that Fox News and the Daily Wire say. But it's really important because I have lots of money. Anyway, that's Patrick Bet David. Can't stand that.
Okay.
But their whole, their whole fucking sphere is about whatever the specific topic is, divert it, squirrel, get you looking at something different. Mm-hmm. Because in the end, what we're talking about in ending capitalism is not allowing, I would say, maybe a few 100,000 people, maybe 1 million people, make all the decisions that directly affect everyone else on the planet. And they think they're entitled to that. And they have a lot of money because they are the wealthiest people. They are the capitalist ruling class after all. This entire global economy facilitates their ability to lord power over us. And they're going to do anything and everything they can to make sure that that never changes. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that facilitates and strengthens their ability to do that is to have poor people suffering without the mental capacity to take care of themselves on a fucking street corner under a bridge or something. Because if that person had their mental health issues actually properly addressed from a medical professional, they might overcome them. They might be functioning members of society. They might read some fucking Malatesta and realize, holy shit, this capitalism shit is fucked up. They almost stuck me out on the street. We can't have people doing that. So we need them sick. We need them suffering. We need them worrying about where their next meal is coming from. What happens if my kid gets sick because I won't be able to pay rent next month? That's what they want us thinking about. And that fear needs to be existential and real.
And their solution is to just work harder. Get a 4th job. They don't want you thinking about any other solution, like, I don't know, destroying the ruling class. Like, no, there is a solution to your problem. Make more money.
Yeah, and maybe you should have thought about that 20 years ago when you worked your ass off, mm-hmm. and now your pension or your 401k or whatever it is isn't actually cutting it. Man, you should have mm-hmm. thought about that.
Yeah.
But, I think, unless you have some more you'd like to say on this issue, I think that's actually kind of a pretty good segue into the issue, into my Reverend, into what I want to talk about.
Go for it.
In terms of media literacy. So this is something I've been really focused on for a while. When we first started doing Punks for Progress, me and my uncle got on, and every week we just kind of discussed the news cycle for an hour or two, right? And then, this is kind of in the midst of when Gamergate was happening. People are familiar with that. This is kind of the early beginnings of the rise of the alt-right. It was already happening. And while we were in this sort of first season of Punks for Progress, I became aware of what was really kind of going on in that world. And I'd always been really fascinated by fascism. I'd been attacked by Nazi boneheads when I was young, and it stalked my house, and it was pretty traumatic. And I had a lifelong fascination with fascism. And, so when this alt-right thing started burgeoning, I was instantly focused on it. And then they started rallying and doing rallies in Berkeley, and Kylie and I, we've been to them when we went out and we counter-demonstrated against them. And so all my focus became about confronting fascism in the alt-right in America. And that was, most of the people who are subscribers to Punks for Progress, that's why they're here, is because we went to all these fasc rallies and shit. And I got in the face of a bunch of these people. But, in doing all that, more and more and more, what my focus has become on is the importance of understanding how social media works, how it affects us all, how mainstream media, cable media, whether it's your YouTube outlets or if you're in the progressive sphere watching Turks or Majority Report or Midas Touch or any of these leftist mafia people or any of that kind of stuff. If you're doing that, or if you're on the right wing, you're watching Crowder or whatever, those assholes with the Daily Wire. We are in a new era of how we ingest and interact with information and with media. This is new. The human species has never experienced this before, and none of us are experts, and none of us know how to do it. We're figuring this out as we go. Okay? So I'm not here to point blame or try to say you're bad, and you're bad, and you're bad. Unless you're a fascist, fuck you. You are at fault, and you are deserving of a lot of blame for the carnage and the shit that's going on. If you're on the right wing, you support fascism and you're a piece of shit. You are. You just are. You're either ignorant and brainwashed, or you're purposefully fucking knowingly lying and brainwashing and misinforming. That is the right way. But it has gotten massive, and we're all culpable in allowing this to happen. Is kind of what I'm getting. And God, this is such a complex thing. It's like I said, it's going to be a series of videos where I'm going to dive in this. But let me give you some ideas of what I'm getting at. So first and foremost, I have a contention that most people won't like, but it's turn off the fucking live chat. Stay out of the live chat. Okay? Unless you want to go over to like Twitch and your whole thing is about interacting with community, that is incredibly important. I'm not saying you shouldn't have that. Like there's a time and a place for interacting with other people in a live chat and having a discussion and bouncing ideas off of the community. And there's another time where you just shut that shit off and listen to the information that's being imparted to you. It always astounds me and amazes me how many people are only half-assed paying attention to the information being disseminated on whatever platform, but they're in the live chat, blah, blah. Well, I think it's blah, 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 blah. And I think, no, you're wrong. And I see it routinely. You did not hear what they just said. You totally misunderstood them because you're only half-assed paying attention. Now you're running your mouth, and you just judged another person for disagreeing with you. Which brings me to another thing. Fucking admit you're wrong. That's to everybody. Everybody. I do it. I'm going to proudly say, and even though I have the reputation of being the most hard-headed and stubborn motherfucker that ever lived, I have admitted, oh shit, you're right. I was wrong. I've done it. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you fucking prove me wrong. I'm going to say it. But I'm telling you, man, I think I'm the only one. Because leftists, liberals, right-wingers, it's like, if I said it on social media, I'm going to back it till I die. Everyone is a goddamn expert. And you know what? You're not. Unless you can verify that you're an expert, you're not. And it's okay to not be an expert. Oh, God damn it. Get out of the fucking live chat and be willing to admit you're wrong. Those are two huge, huge things that I think are everyone needs to get like real up front and get real critical about. Again, I'm not saying that don't ever do live chat. Like Twitch is fantastic for that. I don't see going to Twitch as a place where you go to get news. And there's a lot of people who do that. You can. There are streamers on Twitch where you can get good information. Okay. But for the most part, the culture there is interacting with everybody and talking to the streamer and having that interaction. Okay. My advice is do that once you've well informed yourself on the issue. Then go to the community live chat and spew whatever your opinion. We need to be able to do that. I'm not disparaging interaction with the community. But shut off the live chat first and take the time. And then, of course, if you're doing politics and you haven't read a bunch, you're doing it wrong. Every time, no exceptions. You do not have a strong foundational political worldview if you haven't read a bunch of books. If you can't define the isms properly, please shut the fuck up in a live chat. You don't know what you're talking about. And just because you can vouch the shit out of it, which is just basically ingest all the internet discourse and be so on top of all the internet discourse that you can then repeat it in such a way that seems like you're so well informed, when all you are is you just ate all the internet and are rebarfing it up. Which you can do if you have a foundational understanding to prop that up on. Take the time. Read things like Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations to understand capitalism. Read the Communist Manifesto. Read the Bread Book by Kropotkin. Okay? Read some Lenin. read the, Mao's little red book. I'm not saying you have to internalize all of it and embrace it and be a communist or be an anarchist. Like, just know what the hell you're talking about. And if you learned it from videos on YouTube, you didn't learn it. As a student and a person with a master's degree, Kylie, how important it is to annotate when you're reading. How crucial that is to make sure that you actually do fully internalize that information and have a grasp on it in such a way that you can then reiterate it to someone else, as opposed to it just being a thing you looked at and then forgot. You're not annotating videos that you watched. And if it went by in 20 minutes, probably what stood out was the joke that you thought was funny, and then maybe one line about that person. Like, who's coming to my mind who I think is fantastic and everyone should watch their videos is Zoe Baker. This is a person who achieved a PhD. I forget him specifically, essentially anarchy. That's not specifically it. But, she has put out a fantastic book about the history of anarchism and how it relates today. Anyway, you can learn a lot from Zoe Baker. I learn a lot from Zoe Baker. But that's because I did the foundational reading first. And this is one of the reasons I appreciate her so much, is because, clearly she did the reading and she's bringing nuance to this subject that had I not read, I wouldn't pick up on. That's just one example. So again, I'm not trying to disparage. Tune in to leftists on YouTube and whatever streaming platform and follow them. Follow Crime Think, follow Submedia and, these other outlets and stuff. But do the reading. Do the reading. If you want to have a voice on politics. You don't have to do the reading if you just want to sit and watch videos and listen or whatever. But you got to start popping off with, I got opinions, and I got feels about this. Like, my thing is shut the fuck up unless you can, have done the homework and confidently know what you're talking about. Not just because it went over well in the last live chat and everyone thought you sounded really smart, because I got news for you. Everybody else in that live chat never read shit and don't know shit either. But goddamn, they're impressed with the little bit of shit you don't know. Okay. So that's just little bits and pieces. And you know what I think I'll do is I'm just going to quickly kind of go over the outline that I have for the first video. So what I just gave you is a ranty, angry overview of what the series is going to be. And it's going to be a little more focused. So than the way I just described it there. The first video, I'm going to do one video which will be the introduction to media literacy. This is what I'm going to try to impart. My opinions on how to be properly media literate, okay? Then I'm going to do other videos. I want to tackle, there's a big issue within the punk rock community about a lot of people who are like my age and a little older that got broke by COVID. Like, just totally fucking, they think they're all anti-government, whatever, and they're out here spewing full-on sharing right-wing, person comes to mind is John Joseph, the original singer for Chromax. That dude has he can't find the plot anymore. He is routinely sharing anti-trans and right-wing, full-on right-wing fascist stuff, and then talking about, I'm not right-wing and I'm not politics, and believes this, right? But he thinks that he's the true punk now because he's anti-government. And this is a sad phenomenon, and I think a lot of millennials and Gen Zers are looking at old punks and going, fuck you, boomers. And it bothers me because I see punk rock foundationally as a leftist movement from its inception. It's a Dadaist, anarchist, anti-authoritarian movement. It's not just government bad. And so I'm going to do a whole video. I'm going to address some of these more prominent figures within the punk rock community that have gone this way and why I think they've gone this way. Like, to me, it makes a lot of sense that they did it. And first and foremost, it comes from this notion of, this is another thing that is a recurring theme through this series, will be, you'll hear a lot of people say, even in progressive media and leftist media, you got to shut off the mainstream media. Stop exposing yourself to all this garbage. I fundamentally disagree with that completely and wholeheartedly. I used to espouse that And there was a long time in my life where I actually did do that. Okay. Basically, when the OJ trial hit, my news channels became inundated with talking about OJ all day long. When I went there to find out what's going on in Washington, so I turned it off. I stopped watching and started paying attention to mainstream media. And then 9/11 happened, and I was like, shit, I don't understand how this could happen. I need to start paying attention. Matt began my long now love-hate relationship with news media. But this notion of you got to turn off mainstream media, wrong. You need to be paying attention to what mainstream media is saying, because millions and millions of other people are paying attention to mainstream media, and they're formulating their opinions, and then which translates into the way they interact with you in this world is based on those things they heard from mainstream media. I'm not saying you need to sit around and watch MSNBC and Fox News for hours and hours and fuck your brain all up with that shit, but be well aware with what their line is. You know, a great way to do that is to sub everything on YouTube, so you can look in your subscription feed. When a news story hits, you'll see, okay, this is what MSNBC is saying, this is what CNN is saying, this is what the Young Turks are saying, this is what the Blaze is saying, this is, right? Man, and then you pick the thing that, like, okay, now that I have an idea of where they're all coming from, maybe you'll pick one of those to hear further analysis or whatever, right? So again, I think those are three of, I'm in the series, I'm going to do one on why did a bunch of old punk rockers become fucking totally broken in the brain from COVID.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
And I want to address the Anna issue. Everyone in the YouTube polysphere, political sphere, is all up in arms over Anna's shift. Okay, so I have some very specific opinions about what's going on there. A lot of people are saying she's moving to the right. I don't think that's accurate. Okay, first and foremost, she doesn't understand capitalism. If you don't have a proper understanding of capitalism or a proper critique of capitalism, you're going to make really bad decisions, and you're not able to actually properly interpret the language of news and politics, because all of it is directly affected by the powers of the capitalist ruling class. All of it. And if you're not aware of that, and Anna's not, it's going to fuck up your analysis. Now, I think Anna is shifting towards really what is more a centrist position. I don't want to get into it too much now, but I think what she really thinks, one, she thinks that because the Young Turks are the biggest sort of quote-unquote progressive outlet out there, that they set the tone for progressivism. I think Cenk believes this to a certain extent too, but not as much as Anna, and it's definitely gone to her head. So she thinks, well, if I said it, it's progressive. Fucking, it's just wrong. And I think what she's doing, frankly, I'll just put it like this. I have no way to know this for any certainty, but I think she's waiting for her contract at TYT to expire so that she can go work for the Daily Wire and be the Combs to Ben Shapiro's Hannity. So if people don't remember, on Fox News, there was a series for a long time called Hannity and Combs, and it was supposedly the Republican conservative view of Hannity, and Sean Combs, the liberal. Really what Sean Combs was just the, oh yeah, you're right, turns out, conservative. You know. Now, I don't think Anna will be that much of a mouthpiece. I think she'll be allowed to maintain some of her centrist liberalism. Again, progressivism and liberalism is centrism. It doesn't call for the end of capitalism. All progressives and all radical progressives still allow for capitalism to exist. They ultimately want to make compromises with it. Okay, so it's not much of a shift for Anna to be more centrist. But again, that being said, you know, progressive and liberals' relationship to allowing capitalism fundamentally means they do have more in common with the right wing than they do with us on the left who want to end capitalism altogether. Right? So I think Anna saw that Steven Crowder was offered $50 million by the Daily Wire, and shit, really? So she's not going to do the why I left the left necessarily. I think she's going to go and co-host a show with Ben Shapiro for a few fucking $1 million and play the liberal role.
Okay.
But she's already shifting. Anyway, so I'm going to do a whole video on that. But again, it relates to media literacy. Okay? Like, I think that we as consumers, people who view that or are concerned about her shift, if we can be more media literate, we'll better understand why she made this shift. And had she been more media literate and, of course, had a better foundational understanding of capitalism, she probably wouldn't be making this shift. I don't know. That's arguable because I think that she says it on the show all the time. She daydreams about, expensive vacations in tropical places. And she's like, oh, my God. Which that stuff's wonderful and people should be able to do that. But she has a pretty serious preoccupation with it. And when you think about a dipshit like Steven Crowder being offered $50 million and you once taught journalism in a college, you're like going, what am I doing? Anyway, these are some of the videos I'm going to be doing on media literacy. And that's kind of an introduction to where my head is on. I guess the 3 bullet points being, stay the fuck out of the live chat. Just get the fuck out of live chat unless you know what you're talking about already. I forget what my other ones were.
Read a book, I think it was, or pay attention to mainstream.
Have the foundational understanding. Thank you, Kylie. Have foundational understanding. Do the reading. Once you've done that, then expose yourself to a broad swath of all the media that's out there. And lastly, just stay the fuck out of the live chat until you've actually kind of done all of that and have a firm grasp on the issues. Then you can share your shit with the community. So anyway, there we go. That's my kind of introduction. I have the first video. I started on the script. I have the outline. I'm working on the script for it. So keep an eye out for that, and as it, once these videos start coming up, we'll talk about them here on the What the Fuck Report. But unless you have any questions about that or you want to talk about it, maybe we should play some punk rock videos and then see what's going on with So-Cal Shannon. Bring her in here to talk about what's going on in Gaza and her efforts to get our homie Ahmed and his family out of Gaza with her GoFundMe. She raised a shit ton of money there, legit, proper, to help get this family out. And awesome. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about other issues relevant to getting resources and aid into Gaza. And then we'll do a So-Cal Shannon Scene Report, get you up to date on some local actions that you might want to attend, maybe some punk rock shows you want to go to. But first, let's play this here video from went and saw FANG this last year, back, I don't know, September or something like that, I don't remember, in Sacramento, do the 40th anniversary of the release of their first album, Landshark. And I got some video from that. So this is Drowning from FANG, their 40th anniversary live show in Sacramento. And we'll be back with So-Cal Shannon.
And I actually live in the Tenderloin, and the streets are filled with maggots. Yeah! We know, Bob. It's okay.
Welcome back to Punks for Progress Weekly What the Fuck Report. I am Reverend Aaron. Kylie the Krankenschwester still here, but we're joined by So-Cal Shannon. So-Cal Shannon.
Hello.
How the hell are you, fam? Struggling in this 2024 dystopia that we all live in together.
It's hard to keep up with everything and keep your sanity. I don't think that's possible at all. I think we've all lost it.
Like my Uncle David used to say, I lost it a long time ago, and I ain't even looking for
it. Yeah. Sometimes I'm looking for it. Sometimes I'm looking for it.
Well, like I said, welcome. We're gonna do we got 3 different sort of segments we're going to do here with So-Cal Shannon. You've got something I've really been wanting to share with our audience for a while. Friend of ours that's from, friend of P for P, who is stranded in Gaza with his children, his family, and Shannon has done some real genuine work with trying to get some funds to help get them out. So we're going to talk all about that. She actually, with the help of a lot of fucking righteous as fuck people in the community, was able to raise a significant amount of money. But that has been so many loopholes and obstacles that you've had to jump through.
And we're not done.
So
we're
ridiculous.
stuck again.
So
I haven't even updated you on the latest.
Right. Well, we'll do that today. So we're going to talk about that. But we're going to talk about kind of the issues of getting aid into Gaza more broadly. Right, Shan's got a couple of videos that she wants to share with us relevant to that issue, and we're going to talk about that more broadly. And then, of course, it's time to bring back the So-Cal Shannon Scene Report, which is an old staple of the What the Fuck Report and Punks for Progress. So she's going to get you some stuff on some upcoming punk rock shows and some street actions that you might want to attend or get involved in. So.
Not limited to SoCal anymore, though.
Right. It's just So-Cal Shannon.
It's just a
doing
scene report.
The scene report. So we have that. So with no further whatever, let's talk about GoFundMe, Ahmed, trying to get into Egypt. Maybe I should say before I just state kind of as an underlying premise and for the record, free Palestine. It is an occupation, and there is, in fact, a genocide being enacted on the people of Gaza by the right-wing regime of Israel. That is the position I hold. That's the position I believe of everybody at Punks for Progress, and I think it's incredibly important, so I will restate it.
Gaza is an state.
Gaza is an open-air prison in an apartheid state. They've been living under oppression of the state of Israel for decades. And Israel, the right-wing, full-on fascist regime in charge of the state of Israel, is currently enacting a legit 100% verifiable genocide against the people there. There is massive amounts of ethnic cleansing happening. And so we can maybe discuss all that more further as we go out through these conversations, but I think it's important that listener knows that that's our baseline premise, that we come from that proper factual understanding of reality. So with that said, so Ahmed, correct me if I'm wrong, Shen, but I believe I met Ahmed. I don't know. They're following us. He's been in our universe for a number of years.
For a while. Somehow you introduced us, and I want to say it was Pratik. Somehow but I don't know that for sure. That's just my memory. Somehow.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Pratik. Ragu.
Okay.
It's not Ragu.
Yeah.
I can't say the last name. I always do that.
Right.
I'm
Pratik,
sorry.
From our Indian comrade from India.
Yeah,
Through
the
that.
professor.
Right.
The anti-fascist
that makes
professor. Sense. Yeah, that's how I started paying attention to Kashmir as well, which shit's going down there too again. I knew I don't know why. I just am like, okay, this is starting in Gaza. We need to look at and not just Kashmir, Sudan, Congo, right? We could go on. Syria, Lebanon, Yemen. So
capitalist, imperialist colonialism is rampant, and it's almost like just the gloves are off.
But anyway, I didn't mean to sidetrack us.
No, but I appreciate the context. So, all of this is connected to a broader.
But the difference is, there is a difference with Gaza, and that's why the world is doing what it's doing. This is an in-your-face genocide. I mean, war crimes, 3 criteria just for the mumbo-jumbo UN criteria, right? That it meets already with food, the bombings of certain institutions, and there's one other, the aid, food. I forget what the other criteria is, but it even meets that. And so, the international court, the UN, it's a fucking joke, right? We literally have people on their way there hoping they won't get bombed by Israel to help break the siege, not just to bring aid, and they're not being quiet about that. So
we have this relationship with Ahmed. We've had this relationship for a number of years before this most recent activity.
Yeah.
And, I got booted off Facebook a few years back. And I could have created stock accounts and be on there still, but I just didn't. But you maintained a relationship and actually became legitimate.
We became friends.
And so when this, when Israel's response to October 7th, became so clearly unhinged and over the top, which I think we should be clear too, what Hamas did on October 7th was fucking disgusting and out of line. But again, when you live in an occupation in an apartheid state for, decades, people will do irrational, terrible things. My therapist often says that which remains repressed will be expressed inappropriately, to say the least. Okay.
And you can't expect there not to be resistance in all forms. Some forms we don't agree with. I don't agree with Hamas's religious beliefs, okay, that they want to be right. However, the way people talk about them is like they're ISIS, and they're not, okay? Because people in Gaza, there's a saying in Arabic about Gaza, but I there's no way I could say it. But it basically is saying you can be who you are. Like, you're free to be who you are. You can wear a hijab, you cannot wear a hijab, So this is the place we're talking about, and people act like it's Iran, and they're executing people who are taking them off. And that's not Hamas. I still don't agree with them. I don't agree with organized religion, period, because it's patriarchal. So there's that. But that doesn't mean I wanted people to get murdered in Israel.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's a huge difference. But you have to look at it all in context, all the way back to even before 1948, to see what happened and what has been happening and how much worse it's gotten. Even since I've known Ahmad, it's gotten worse.
So
that's 7 years. Adam was a baby.
Okay. That's Ahmed's child. And we obviously have two different versions of how to pronounce his name, and our apologies. We probably both have it wrong. It's a third variation.
Because there's
but much
different
love to you, homie.
spellings, but other friends and our comrade who knows how to speak the language says Ahmad. So that's why I say it that way.
Okay.
Plus,
Fair
I
enough.
don't have a correct Arabic accent. And I probably butcher it anyway.
what I was going to say was, so let's get to, okay, so I'm going to give a quick little recap. This is not detailed. You're not going to learn anything from this, but just to get us up to speed to the GoFundMe.
Right.
Okay, so October 7th, Israel begins its genocidal campaign in response. A mass of the people in Gaza are told to move south by Israel, and they'll be safe in Israel. And then they just sort of obliterated it, all the areas that they were leaving and migrating south to, which, let's be clear, that's called ethnic cleansing when you do that. And then the IDF in Israel began bombing the area in the south that they had been told to move to. And Ahmed
and that happened numerous times.
And Ahmed and his children are all caught up in all of this.
Right.
And so in the midst of this, you think because you're a very empathetic person and your half of your home was filled with tears as you're dealing and watching all this unfold because you're so goddamn concerned about our friend, and others, of course. But I mean, it's real at home. This thing that is a nightmare for all of us that are watching it. But to have someone that is anyway. So you decide. I guess I can do a GoFundMe, right? Is that?
Well, no, what happened is it's kind of lengthy and I forget and I'm like, it's going on 7 months. How long it's been. Anyway, what happened is he lives in the South. He lives in Khan Yunis. So what happened is maybe 3 or 4 days into the war, the first 2 days, I think I was paralyzed. I ignored it.
That would be your trauma response.
I don't know why I did that.
Frozen.
But that's what I didn't ignore him. I told him I just I'm gonna ignore
normal.
this and it'll go away, and it never does. So by day 3, I was talking to him and said, I can send you money, and I sent him money, and I don't know if it was the next day because, there's quite a few hours difference or not. So if it was day 3 or 4, he said, we're moving to the school in Khan Yunis, right near, and I forget the name of the hospital. It's one of the last ones they really did bad stuff in. So
Just
basically what he
IDF,
was doing...
Shan, to be clear, what she means is IDF and the right-wing regime of Israel has been bombing the shit out of hospitals and healthcare facilities. As
and
my understanding
schools
is
and churches and mosques and...
Over and over and over again, systematically. And
I mean, the Christian community in the West Bank, in Jerusalem, Bethlehem, there's not many left. If there's hardly any left. So anyway, that's a whole nother segment. They went to the school. I'm not sure how many weeks went by. They were there for quite a while, and then they ended up moving to another school, but still in Khan Yunis, but closer to Rafah. And then that is when their house and his pharmacy, who, by the way, he built by people like me and just comrades around the world sending him money to help his community with medicine, right? That's going to make me cry. Sorry. Darn it, y'all. I wasn't going to do this. I was doing so well. Anyway, so that's when he found out about that. And that's when he said, do you think you could start a GoFundMe for me? So it wasn't even from me. And I said, I can try. And so that's how it started. And I've been trying ever since to get the money to him. Initially, it was GoFundMe. And there was kind of a shitty message about, due to the instability in the Middle East, is what it said. Some bullshit we have further review. So they make you jump through a lot of hoops. However, I'm not going to talk shit on GoFundMe. It's the only way to get people money right now. The thing is now, they can't receive money through their banks or PayPal, which is what a lot of people have because that's attached to your bank, right? So I was trying to send it to Egypt, to his cousin. And he got one. I sent him like 3 more. He was sick. That's why he wasn't picking them up. He goes, he picks up one. Egypt says, no, you have to be in a close relationship, like family or married, to pick these up.
Receive the money.
Yeah. Then we tried MoneyGram. So I sent one MoneyGram. He picks it up. They say you can only do this once a month.
Wow.
The siege is coming, right? Yeah. So now we're sending it to a cousin.
You have coming.
Yeah, now we're sending it to a cousin in UAE, United Arab Emirates. But, and no problem, right? No problems. However, the exchange rate, they're taking a shit ton of money for the exchange rate. No one else did that. When I used to send it to Ahmad all the time in Palestinian Authority, they don't do that. Egypt doesn't do that. The UAE does. So now Ahmad is extremely depressed, more than normal. If there's any normal depression, I don't know. But so anyway, he's trying to figure out a way to get family to get him the money because he's got part of it. Because I was able to send some to him, and then his cousin a couple times, and then his other cousin, right? So he's got almost half of it.
So let me, can I pause real
anyways,
quickly?
Just so I finish that.
Sure. Go ahead.
If someone can get enough money together to get it to his cousin in Egypt, and then we get him to Rafah, and then we'll pay him back. I can pay him back. That's where we're at right now because we can't get him enough money. We have to keep raising the fundraiser because the other thing going on is it goes up. Egypt is charging $5,000 to $6,000 a person, and children are like,
That's what I wanted to talk about. That's what I was hoping to have you talk about a little bit. Like, you're not sending. This is thousands of dollars to talk about. You don't have to give.
Right. Is it bribe money? Is it?
Whatever. But this isn't just so him and his family can have some money walking around with. There's specific purpose for this money. Can you talk?
No, this is just to get them out of there.
Right.
For a family of 4, it's $25,000.
And who does that go to?
I don't. That's the fees
That's got to be.
I don't know if it's the state. I don't know if it's just like at first I just thought it was like here, like coyotes, right? But it's not. It's like it's a fee you have to pay to cross, and there's a waiting list, of course. There's hundreds of thousands of people trying to get over
These are
there.
people who've had their homes bombed and they have nothing and they're walking around without shoes but here's 25 grand so I can.
Aw.
What a gross,
systemic
fucked up world capitalism is created.
And we raised it though. That's the good news. Now it's just we can't get the money over, and it's just like so. Ahmad does it more than I, but jokes about the bad luck. We have bad luck. But this isn't bad luck. This is Egypt. I mean, because if you think about it, you got to pay fees to go over there, and then you have
put up barriers.
The fees, and you're trying to get them to people there
obstacles
so
and
they
barriers.
can get them over because there's no banking institutions banking in Gaza anymore. So they're saying you can't get the money, and then the other one is like you can only do it once a month. They're trying to keep people out. It's a detourant, right? Yeah. And so
Well, they're making that commodity.
what the fuck's Jordan's
They're
problem?
making that
Why aren't
commodity
they letting people
exclusive,
in? That's what,
right? You can only
you know.
escape if you have money.
This is
So
disgusting.
if you
I
can't
don't
have
know
money,
why it
we'll
should
just
cost money.
we'd rather
I
kill the
understand it
poor
costs money
than deal with
to.
them. And that's the part.
I
That's
don't
a
like
principle of
saying
their
house
genocide. I
people,
believe.
but I can't think of a better way to say it. But
Well, I mean, there's expenses, right?
Scared across the border.
Right.
That's just to not be a target.
Right.
It's $25,000 is the price of being human.
Mm-hmm.
Of a family of four, a
mattering.
small family of 4.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because otherwise, I mean, you don't have enough humanity, and you're just subject to genocide. Fuck you, go die.
Right.
Oh, wait, you got 25 grand? Hey, human. Hey, fellow member of humanity, come hang.
I have a
You matter
question.
now.
It happens at our border every day.
So unless there's something else, you feel there's anything that's important that we should know relevant to this campaign, is there? Are you still raising? Are you still raising? I'll go to Kylie's question, but are you still raising money?
We are still raising money. We're not quite to 30,000 yet because we're trying to get the 5,000 for when they first get there to secure somewhere to stay and for essentials. This is one of the brokers, or I don't know how they do it in Egypt. I don't know if Western Union would be at a bank like here. It's at it's at grocery stores or pharmacies. Yeah. But there they could be a banking institution. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't believe it's not MoneyGram or Western Union. No, not at all. And it's not GoFundMe. It's the states. It's the countries.
Here's the page.
So, yeah, and just big ups and
Yeah.
much love to you, Shan. And I know how hard this has been. It's been a roller coaster and all the obstacles. I know how much you care about, especially homie's little babies, his kids over there. You share pictures that he. Holy fuck, man!
Adam and Sarah.
Adam just looks so much like one of my nephews. Like, if you see him side by side,
He's a very sweet boy, like his dad too. I mean, I'm not calling him a boy, obviously.
So, okay, let's talk about then. Sort of.
There it is.
Oh, there you go. Thank you, Kylie.
Yes, thank you.
So let's leave that up for a little bit. But let's move into sort of the issue of aid in Gaza more broadly, right? Shan, you had some thoughts you wanted to share on this, and you're kind of our de facto default house resident expert on this issue, just because you're so connected with it through your efforts.
Is that the one with the ship?
Ahmad.
I wouldn't call myself an expert. I just
right.
I
That's
try
why I said
to
de
learn.
facto.
Pay
All right,
attention.
You know more about it than
we
we do, I guess, is what I'm getting at. So we're going to rely on you to help us with some information. But you got a couple clips. One's an
Is it this
Al
one?
Jazeera Plus piece, and then there's another short clip that we'll play. This Al Jazeera one's about a little over 2 minutes. Why don't we play that? I'm going to try, and there's some parts that are like in Arabic and stuff, and it's subtitled, but I'll try and read the parts for people who are just listening to this. But let's play that. It's 2 minutes and something.
I think it's Spanish or Italian.
That's it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it.
Ese barco blanco que ven a mis espaldas es el Agnetic 2, una de las 3 embarcaciones de la Freedom Flotilla Coalition que transportarán a cerca de 1.300 pasajeros de decenas de nacionalidades, muchos de ellos observadores internacionales humanitarios, que tratarán de llevar 5.500 toneladas de ayuda desde Turquía hasta Gaza para tratar de socorrer a la población de la franja.
We're doing what
Okay,
our
hold, pause it.
doing, but won't challenge.
Okay, so he's basically... That was moving really fast, and it was too loud.
So he must have been
Read
filming
over
it. Turkey? Is that what he was saying?
So the white ship that you see behind me is the Akinus
What? Turkey's
2.
helping the situation?
It's one of 3 vessels of the Freedom Flotilla Coalition that will carry close to 1,300 passengers of dozens of nationalities. Many of them international, who will try to deliver 5,500 metric tons of aid from Turkey to Gaza in an attempt to help the population of the Strip. So, yes. So you can go ahead and play it because, and let this play.
Doing what our government should be doing, but won't challenge this system that leaves Israel. There has been no meaning challenge to that control and those war crimes. Denying food to a civilian population, using starvation as a weapon of war.
Pero hay un problema. Para entregar la ayuda.
But there is a problem. In order to deliver the aid, the flotilla has to cross the illegal Israeli blockade.
La flotilla tiene que cruzar el bloqueo ilegal israelí. Varias flotillas intentaron hacerlo.
Several flotillas have tried to
I like
do
that.
the same.
Look at the banner. I mean, those are programs to be looking up. Freedom Flotilla Coalition, U.S. boats to Gaza, USA.
In 2010, the Israeli army shot dead 10 people and injured dozens after raiding the Mavi Marmara ship.
El israelí asesinó a tiros a 10 personas e hirió a varias decenas tras asaltar la embarcación Mavi Marmara, también tripulada únicamente por...
Which was also solely crewed by humanitarian workers trying to deliver supplies to Gaza. Again, solely crewed by humanitarian workers.
Trabajadores humanitarios que intentaban llevar víveres a Gaza. Desde 2008, y a pesar de muchos intentos.
Since 2008, and despite many attempts, no ship has been able to reach Gaza.
Ninguna embarcación ha logrado llegar a Gaza. Aunque esta vez podría ser diferente.
One thing But this time could be different.
We have done for this mission is to put together a really solid and strong media team with volunteers that are coming from all over the world. The only protection that we have as an organization is the civil society. So what we can do is to engage on social media, to share our videos, to share those videos with your local politicians, your local government. Try to spread the word.
Los tripulantes de la flotilla.
Just pause it. So I'll read that in a second. But I just want to say, that is the major difference with, well, not only has what the right-wing regime has been doing, Israeli regime has been doing in Gaza, much more extreme than actions they've taken in the past. While more extreme, it's not new. They have been murdering innocent civilians in Gaza for a long fucking time. The thing that's different now is you can't pull out a phone and fucking show it. The whole world is watching for real this time. And in the past, whether it was right-wing mainstream media or centrist liberal, all the bourgeois media would sell a pro-Palestine or a pro-Israel government's bent on this. And now people are getting live streamed from the ground. We're seeing gnarly footage. I just got to say, I've seen images of children in Gaza with their guts hanging out their body and shit.
I've seen some of the worst things I've ever seen in my life, and some of them weren't gory.
And so there was a time before social media. And again, this is coming from a guy who's railing against social media. Earlier, I was talking about this whole series I'm going to do about how we're doing social media wrong. But all that said,
it's finally a tool that they haven't had for decades, or since the beginning, is representation in media or in the Western world, period. I mean, not many Palestinians moved, migrated to the U.S. in the 1930s just out of the hell of it, to be represented decades later by their large families. Like, they have never had their own voice to represent themselves. It's always been the narrative spoken from those in power. And yeah, it's finally something that can be used
social media and their
for them.
influence on social media and getting the word out. Where these flotillas that since 2008 have not been allowed, there've been a blockade against this type of aid, might get through this time. I think that's huge. I really wanted to emphasize that.
And I just
and this alludes to what Aaron was talking about earlier, which is being literate in what's your news source and what perspective are they going to spew. Unfortunately, those have the biggest microphones, the ones that usually have an altered perspective.
So there's that kind of shit too. Even on social media, they try to erase them. And what I mean by they is Zionists from Israel. Tech companies.
Mm-hmm.
And what I think's happened is they've been forced to, because of social media. They're being irresponsible. They have to cover something, somewhat of it, like Black Lives Matter movement, right? If they ignored that, nobody would watch them, correct? So actually, social media does push the mainstream to report on some things that they would ignore typically.
And I think, Shan, that there's a lot of information that can be gathered from these mainstream media sources if you understand that they're there to serve the capitalist ruling class interests, right? So you don't just take it at face value. You think, why do they want me to know this particular thing they're saying? And if you put that in the context of them being motivated by the capitalist ruling class interest, that's a fantastic filter to help you understand why. Sometimes they do tell the truth. They often tell the truth in mainstream media outlets. But you need to understand, why did they actually tell me the truth in this one? Why is it beneficial to them to be honest here and not beneficial to them to be honest there? Right? I just think that's crucial. Again, if you saw the opening segment, I'm on a real bent kick about media literacy right now. So that's where that comes from. But maybe we should get back to this video a little bit, you think?
Probably.
Let me read this line. So the crew of the flotilla, coming from over 30 countries, are aware of the risk of the mission.
Procedentes de más de 30 países son conscientes del riesgo de la misión, pero creen que ante la inacción.
But believe that because of the inaction by governments for Gaza,
de los gobiernos por Gaza, es necesario actuar ya desde la sociedad.
It is necessary for civil society to take action now.
Israeli media that has attempted to distort the image of the flotilla. They have tried to paint us as being violent. They have tried to accuse some of the organizations of, supporting terror. But we are being very clear and open about who we are. We just hope our governments will act to ensure that Israel does not do what it's done before, and that is attack our missions and kill our people. You have to maintain so that we can keep going. And I think it's up to us to make sure that that hope doesn't die.
That also makes me think of
Ese barco blanco que ven a mis
the sort of the way all the mainstream media just jumped on the spurious demonization of UNRWA. I always get that in acronyms, the abbreviation UNRWA. Well, I say UNRWA because there's a old hardcore band that used to play in Reno called UNRWA. But the right-wing fascist regime of Israel just made this claim with zero facts to support it, that UNRWA were Hamas and they're awash in terrorists and anti-Semitic blah blah blah, And so a bunch of countries pulled funding for them. And when all this was just bullshit, this is a genuinely righteous humanitarian aid foundation. And so, and again, this is the importance of how social media has changed the landscape, because in terms of that flotilla, they would just murder those people. And we never would have known.
They're already doing it with the flotilla.
I was today years old when I knew that since 2008, they've been murdering people on these flotillas that are trying to bring aid into Gaza. I didn't know that.
I learned it fairly recently, but I've known it. And actually, I think I do recall the 2010 one, because that made the news. That was a big thing. But they lie. So here's the thing. Israel's already saying that they're coming to help support Hamas. Okay? Because everybody's Hamas. Medea Benjamin from Code Pink is on the ship. She's Hamas. Wait, what did Nancy call her? Russia or Chinese bot? I don't know. Remember Nancy Pelosi called Medea?
Yeah.
Or at least someone with Code Pink. Maybe it wasn't Medea.
And let me just say, this is just my opinion. In terms of Medea, I respect Medea Benjamin. She's just constantly 24/7 against war. Sometimes she associates with some problematic, I think, brush up against
that kind of backed off.
But I never was like, oh gosh, she's become a Nazbol now. I never felt like I still, even in the midst when she was doing panels with some questionable people, like on the gray zone side of the political spectrum or whatever, she was there because she fucking wanted to rail against war. And so I'm an anti-capitalist, anarchist, syndicalist, anarchist, leftist. She's not. She's, her politics are a little different than mine, but she is genuinely against war. I still like.
Well, and the other woman is a retired military nurse. I don't recall which branch of the military. I forget her name, but she's the other one that's always. She's on the ship too with Medea. There's a lot of old people on that ship.
They wanted them in power, right? Politically.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I don't mean to laugh, but
Hamas elders.
And that's the line that has worked since time immemorial, since post Nakba.
Oh yeah.
Is it's because Hamas, because they're
the Taliban,
or
the Taliban,
or
ISIS.
They're human shielding. They're human shielding. It was human shield. They were human shield, and people just go, oh, I guess, because they didn't have any other source telling them anything other.
You know what ISIS does have in common with Hamas? We created ISIS and Israel, and because we are always with Israel, created Hamas. So
yeah. Netanyahu bragged about it.
I mean, like, literally
bragged
about
it. No, he literally bragged about it recently. Right. He funded and to take legitimacy away from Palestinian liberation, from the
so they're people.
Right?
They're their own people trying to support themselves by providing distraction, entertainment through their own.
They lick the boots of Israel.
Okay.
Basically. So, I mean, now it's changed a little bit. In the West Bank, it's changed to Palestine, but they're not like they used to be. They're not revolutionary or by any means.
So we had another clip,
which is so important.
That you shared. I haven't seen this. It's really short, but
this is I'm gonna have to cough in a minute. This is part of why my voice sounds the way it is because my allergies are out of control. This is
Free Gaza Circus.
Free Gaza Circus
trying their best.
They're in Gaza. I don't recall which part, but what they do is they go around to the schools, UNRWA, and they perform. They have children participate, clowns, acrobats, like you name it. So they're helping right now, and this is one of they call it parkour. gymnast. It's a school in its own, and they teach children, adults too, but mostly children. But then they also go around, and actually now, because a lot of schools were bombed, they're going around Rafah, and I think just Rafah. I don't think they're going up into northern Gaza, and entertaining the community, mostly the children.
I was stuck. I was down, but now I'm up. Yeah. This all got this ain't no. Yeah. I used to be stuck in that.
Yeah, it's short, but like it's powerful. Like, first of all, like
I was stuck. I was down, but now I'm
seeing him fly through the air. I'm instantly want to smile and impress, but then you see what's behind him, the rubble and the massive
doing it through all the rubble.
Good.
It's just.
It's all got. This ain't no love. Yeah. I used to be stuck in that.
The human spirit is fucking resilient, man. Like,
I shared a video the other day of, which is another, it's another organization, but it's geared towards children as well. It's called Camps Breakers, and they teach hip hop, and I believe they teach different dance, but primarily hip hop's really popular. So they,
I've heard of it.
You'll see them in the streets doing the same stuff, or you know, you've heard of what?
Hip hop.
Hip hop? Oh.
Yeah.
Funny guy. I thought you were talking about the name of the place. Camps Breakers. They have them, I believe there were more than one location in Gaza. One of the locations was bombed. So, I'll talk about it later, but they're having a fundraiser, not just in London. There's one in Seattle. There was one in Seattle this weekend for Camps Breakers to try and help get some funds to them to rebuild places to teach kids to dance.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us, Shan. Again, the resilience of the human spirit. You know, it's. I find inspiration not from the suffering of others. Okay, like I'm not inspired by people who have been enslaved. Okay, but I'm inspired by their ability to survive such treacherous and terrible circumstances. And I believe, there's an old aphorism that I came up with that's, if all are truly equal, none are qualified to rule. And embedded in that is that we are equal. And, you know, the universe forbid that anyone be subjected to such miserable conditions, and that the people who are currently being subjected to it have to endure more. But that's the impression watching that gives me, is that, fuck, we are so capable as a species of such monumental, everyday, amazing achievement and endurance. And if we could focus all that on something proper and that's unifying and collective, there's just no telling what we could accomplish as a species.
The Palestinian people have always used art as a form of resistance. We all do, because what was that? That was someone experienced joy in a genocide. That doesn't sound right, does it? Right?
No, it
but
sure
so
doesn't.
Art is like art is resistance. I mean, it just is, because if you're finding joy or you're coping, right, through your art,
it's therapy.
That's resistance. They haven't destroyed you.
The process of creating it, sharing it, experiencing it from others.
Ahmad writes every single day. He posts his thoughts of whatever. Sometimes it's just his thoughts. Sometimes it's, you know, we woke up to Sarah screaming, being bit by mosquitoes. That's the other thing. Gaza needs mosquito nets bad. It's bad. It's not he's able to find lemon rinds. It's just there's so many. It's impossible. It's that bad. I mean, I always say I can't imagine because I don't know what the fuck else to say. I can't imagine. And he says, no one can imagine this. I could have never imagined the things I've seen. And no one can.
Yeah. Well, listen.
Awesome.
I appreciate you so much bringing all of this information and what you've done with it. Let's see So-Cal Shannon Scene Report with So-Cal Shannon. So there's like music things happening and there's street actions coming up and you have flyers for them.
I do.
We're going to do these in sort of no particular order. They're just kind of the order they were given to Kylie, I guess. So let's just go with the first one. What do we got here? The Darts, they're on Alternative Tentacles Records.
They are. They're also playing on May 3rd in San Pedro at the Sardine, which I've never been to or heard of, but hopefully it's not because everybody's like sardines in there. But this is their record release show.
Oh, for the Darts? Not
Yes.
for the Bourbon Saints.
Wait, what? I thought it was for the Darts because they just, well, maybe it was just a single.
I think it's the Bourbon Saints.
Oh, I
show.
apologize. Anyway, it starts at 8 p.m. and it's 21 and over.
Sweet. It's a cool flyer.
This is a cool flyer. I like this too.
SLF,
I
yo.
like the name of the tour. So yeah,
Hate has no
SLF
home
is on
here.
tour. I don't think I need to name everything, but Hate has no home here. And this is their last U.S. tour, so there's always
Wasn't there
that.
a time where Stiff Little Figures wasn't allowed in the U.S.? Or am I getting them confused with someone else?
I don't think so. I don't recall that. Oh, no. Do you mean around Trump?
Yeah.
That was the Toy Dolls.
Oh. How could I confuse the Toy Dolls with Stiff Little
don't know.
Fingers?
But
I mean, they're
remember
both
he
punk
had
rock
that-
bands, but...
He had like a Trump statue or something he was beating up, or...
Oh, okay. Well, so look, real quickly. Wait, go back, Kylie. There it is. I'm not going to read all the details, but it looks like they're going to start in Boston, Philadelphia, New York, Baltimore, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Detroit, Chicago, St. Paul, Minnesota, Denver, Salt Lake, Portland, Eugene, and Seattle. A whole bunch of Northwest. San Francisco at the Fillmore. And then LA, Ventura, San Diego, Santa Ana, so a whole bunch of SoCal spots, and then at Punk Rock Bowling.
Yeah, they end it with Punk Rock Bowling. The Observatory is a fun show. I've seen them there a couple times. It's big, so it's cool. It's fun to see.
Well, thank you for going back. We can move on. Thank you, guys.
Excuse me. Okay. So this is happening. I apologize, y'all. It's happening in London. But this is for
That's the info, right?
The camps breakers. I always want to say it incorrectly.
don't
That
know.
I was speaking about. They're doing a fundraiser to rebuild the studio that got bombed. And it's called Long Live Philistine. And then they have DJs. And I'm not familiar with them. Host, Poison Pen, Sharif Energy, DJ Static, DJ Snuff. Wednesday, May 1st, Village Underground, 7:30 to 11 p.m. Tickets at dice.fmskittle.com. All proceeds to Dahlia Arts Foundation, Medical Aid for Palestinians, Team Humanity, and Camp Breakers Crew.
Sweet. And you didn't mention probably the biggest name on there is Immortal Technique. Like,
well, I'm sorry, I went down. I skipped the headliners, and
you skipped the headliners.
Low key.
The Immortal Technique is dope.
Low key also, and then Shadia Mansour, and I don't know if it's Mick Righteous or Mike Righteous.
I would think it's Mike Righteous.
Well,
Like
it's in London. It could be a Mick. I'm sorry. I can say that because I'm Scottish, right?
Yes.
Sorry.
All right. I think this is the last. I think this is the last one.
Want me to read that? I'll read that.
That breaks everything down.
So Immortal Technique posted May 1st. Myself, Low-Key Online, Shadia Mansour, Mike Righteous, DJ Snuffon, and DJ Statistic 222 join forces for a one-off concert fundraiser for Gaza at the Village Underground. There will be special guests joining us on stage alongside your hosts for the evening, Poison Pen and Sheriff and Energy. 100% of the proceeds raised from this event will go to Medical Aid PAL, Delia Arts Foundation, Team Humanity Norway, Gaza Team, and Camps Breakers. Show location, London, England, Wednesday, May 1st, Village Underground, 7:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. Tickets at www.dice.fm-www.skittle.com.
Skittle.
That's awesome.
Long Live Philistine, presented by Shadia Mansour
one.
Music and Spread Love. Illustration used for the poster by Imada Bushtaya. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing all of you there in May. Peace and respect. Immortal Technique. # Free Palestine. # Free Gaza.
Very good. I can't see. Not unless I go like
Want me to read that then? Want me to read it?
No, you already read it. No, I can read this one.
Oh, okay.
It's big enough. Okay, so
I see Black Panthers. I see Black Panther stuff.
Yeah, Black Panthers of Washington State. I just thought this was really cool. It's called the Saeed Joaquin Clothing Drive. And they're collecting clothing items year-round. These resources will serve our houseless neighbors and any community members that need them. Oh, in need. I'm sorry. I added words that weren't there. But so, yeah, I just thought this was really cool. It's like kind of like a community closet, but it says
all power to
admin at blackpantherpartywa.com. So that's how you can get a hold of them and find out if you want to help volunteer or if you have a donation or if you are in need.
Fantastic. Excellent. I think that was the So-Cal Shannon Scene Report.
I think so.
Okay, so unless there's any other further comments on these issues, once again, thank you, Shannon, for bringing all that information, for what you've done for Ahmed, righteous as fuck, homie, whatever the hell his name is properly pronounced by us honky presenting Westerners. But so again, thank you for that. Why don't we play some punk rock music, and then we're going to come back, and we're just going to kind of freeform talk about our various opinions and thoughts about the current state of the presidential election, where we're at with that. Who knows where that'll go. But then we're also going to do what I'd like to be sort of a recurring segment, is we're going to take a look at there's this liberal woman who runs a channel called Raw News and Politics. And she routinely, every day, covers what goes on in the courtroom for these J6 defendants. She covers their sentencing, stuff like that, and she provides court transcripts. That's where her information comes from. Is from actual public, she's not a. And then at the end of every one of her videos, as she describes each of these things, she invariably always advocates for harsher sentencing and typical liberal shit that I personally do not agree with at all. And every single one of those videos sort of ends on, okay, here she goes about how, ultimately inadvertently supporting the carceral state and all that kind of shit. So I just want to make that disclaimer. But with that said, the information she provides is factual and verifiable, and it's really awesome, and it'll give us the opportunity to talk about, I think, it opens up the broader topic of fascism in 2024, and the state of it, and the way we should interact with it as leftists and anti-fascists and stuff. So we're going to come back. We're going to talk about what's going on with the election. We're going to talk about fucking J6 defendant fascists getting served some state fucking punishments. And but before we do that, I got to see Subhumans at the Great American Music Hall a few months back. And I filmed some of it, and we're going to play 2 songs from it. So check out Subhumans live, and then we'll come back and talk some shit about some shit.
This song's called Fear and Confusion. Listen, 2 main ways they're going to keep us all in control. That's how they're thinking. Keep the people scared and keep them fucking confused. Organise truth, so truth is no longer an absolute, it's just somebody's fucking opinion. Make people scared to talk to each other in case they're arguing against the wrong person and get fucking the wrong end of being shot. Realization, everything's lost to education. Go with your brain, go with your heart, go with your guts. Cause fear and confusion lies on part. Magnetic, then you, then light. Or is it true? Or is it true? Or is it true?
Okay, we're back on Punks for Progress Weekly What the Fuck Report. That was Subhumans live at the Great American Music Hall. So let's talk. Apparently, they got this whole election thing going on.
It doesn't feel like it's election season. I mean, it feels like our grave has been dug. There's no conversation about progress in either direction. At least from my perspective, I would think, this would be the time and season of, well, here's my new idea. Well, I'm a new person in the scene, and I think we should run things this way and that way. And even though they always get beat out, this is the time to have that kind of discussion amongst
primary. A robust primary, as it were.
I guess.
Where both parties put up a whole bunch of candidates that run and try to vie for the nomination of their respective parties. I mean, there was a little bit of that in the Republican Party.
Instead of just wheeling them out and go, here you go, one or the other.
Right. Full-on fascist or fascism light. You either got the full-on fascist or, fascism light.
Mm-hmm.
One's just facilitating genocide, where the other one's like, we should do genocide faster.
Yeah. As if this is fast.
Right. Like, get it over with. Wrap it up. Bodies, people.
Concede. Die already.
The best people are saying.
Build the condos already. Come on. We know that's where it's going to end.
Literally, Jared Kushner came out with that and said that. Like, can you imagine the beachfront property? And he's like, no, it wasn't imagine. Like, he was blatantly stating, yeah, that's beachfront. Yeah. Like, we're going to develop the shit out of that.
The waterfront property, yeah. We need to clean. I think Hillary said Israel's doing a good job. They need to be cleaning up the area.
Oh yeah.
Because of people, genocidally. So we can pop up apartments, yeah.
But how are you going to
put up a parking lot?
Have you seen Gaza lately? Have you seen parts of the West Bank lately?
There are people with money. There's private equity firms. It's an investment opportunity. You just got to get out those gross people that have been living in this prime real estate.
Because it's not just about...
It's happened over and over.
It's not just about creating space for new settlements and new settlers. It's also about the industry that goes into... leveling what's left of the rubble in Gaza, and then developing it and putting in communities and new community planning and strip malls, and it's going to look like
these same corporations that'll benefit from this are benefiting from these people we got to vote for. The two choices we have,
and here we are. So I mean, we're trying to talk about an election, and it's just Gaza, right? I mean that's.
That's real estate development and building capital.
Right? But let's try and focus a little more on this election. So the options are going to be Donald Trump versus Joe Biden. And a lot of people are really, I would like to hear if you guys have thoughts on, genocide Joe versus faster genocide Trump.
It's blow him up, Joe.
Okay. I'm an anarchist. And I don't have a problem with voting. I'm not a person who thinks that if you vote, you're somehow defeating anarchism. This thing that there's 10 or 12 of us in the entire frickin' world, and we're worried about ruining. I also don't like to tell other people what to do and how to do it very much. I try to avoid that kind of thing, even though, I still have very strong opinions. But my point being, I'm not trying to tell you you should vote, you shouldn't vote, and I'm definitely not trying to tell people who to vote for, okay? But I won't condemn people who do participate in that. And there's always the dynamic of, do you live in a swing state or not? How important is your vote? Like, California, our coastal cities are pretty solidly blue. You could vote for my fart, and chances are Biden's still going to win that district, right? But that's a sham. How do you feel about, a lot of people are saying they're not going to vote for Joe.
So
do you think that this is really, do you think that the protest abstaining in protest to vote for Joe, are you in the camp that facilitates a presidency for Donald Trump? Does that make sense? What I'm saying?
I mean, in the big picture, no, because who created this nightmare is the people running, or the people they're having run, people running the show, the DNC and the RNC, the corporations, right?
The capitalist ruling class,
right? But in this time in our history, can we afford to have a Trump? I don't think we can. So that's scary.
Project 2025 is terrifying. Okay? It's terrifying.
Yeah. He's a maniac.
Trump, he had no idea what he was doing the first time around, but he's taken notes.
Now that he does.
He's got a whole team of people who are ready to do some shit. If you're not filming, we're not going to get into the details of it here, because it's a whole nother fucking video in and of itself.
Right, and
just
see,
Google
that's
Project 2025. Google Project 2025.
That's the difference. Is you're dealing with a neoliberal who's always been a war. Didn't he say he was a proud war hawk at one? Was that him?
He's always been the right wings. Well, maybe I'm not personally familiar. That wouldn't surprise me if he did say that. But he was supportive of Iraq, the war in Iraq, and he's always been the Republican Party's best friend. A lot of people did that,
though. So the majority.
But he has also always been known as the Republicans' best friend in Congress. Like, it's why Obama chose him as his vice president, to help placate the right wing and neocons and stuff who he was really good friends with. And of course, he's also been a long-time, genuine, outspoken lover of Zionism. He's a Zionist all day, like through and through.
This goes way back. So Netanyahu hates him, but
go ahead, Kylie.
Yeah, it's really hard to separate, but I am trying to and want to. Like, I don't want to vote for Joe Biden. I don't. I don't support what he does. I don't want to go down in history as someone who, promoted or agreed with, or at some point. But by default, does that make me an enabler of whatever Trump does? And I think it sets up a perfect scenario for, it's going to be a shit show both ways, and the progressives are going to get blamed because we voted or we didn't vote, and we didn't have this or we didn't have that. Like, I could just see it years down the road. The radical left, the abstaining votes. So it's hard. It's everyone's personal decision which way to go and how you can sleep at night, I guess. And we're not telling people to do one way or the other, but I really don't want to support Joe Biden, and I want him to know that. And so, but policy, in my view, policies and what's being physically done in the world with Joe Biden in president now, or with what Trump is going to do in the future, they're both on the wrong side of the line. Yes, more people will die, more countries will be conquered, more governments will fall, more, democracy will more and more and more with the further right. But it's not a clear choice between good and evil, or a clear choice between no war and war. Like they're already at war. They're already killing people. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm fairly young compared to, the history of the world. And I'm still surprised. I heard like a interview from the 90s where someone was like, oh, wait, I hate that Clinton is like the worst of two evils. Like, I have to vote for Clinton. Like, this has been going on in politics. Right. It's always the lesser of two evils. And we have to, succumb to that ideology, or just like that. Yeah. It's not just a unique situation in politics.
Absolutely.
Now.
And so look, Washington and Adams and other signers of the Constitution railed hard against the formation of political parties. I wrote a long essay about it, long quotes from numerous signers of the Constitution warning against the inception of political parties. Okay? The capitalist ruling class said, no, fuck that, we need capitalists to manipulate. So this is not new. The lesser of two evils is not a new concept. But, I'm not a Trot, okay, but Trotsky wrote a great piece about sort of the role, it's fascism and how to end it, about how the role that liberalism plays in facilitating fascism historically. Now, historically, liberalism really didn't get called. You were a social democrat. More often than not, when you're what we sort of see as liberalism today, traditionally, social democrat. Okay, some of them are actually socialists, so we'll call it, democratic socialism, but whatever. It's liberalism. It's but this is it. Fascism, what it is and how to end it, by Leon Trotsky. He really talks about the role that that liberals or social democrats play in facilitating fascism's ability to take root. Okay, and we talked about it earlier in the show about how liberals ultimately aren't railing, they aren't calling for the end of capitalism. They allow for capitalism to exist, but then want those who benefit most from capitalism, the capitalist ruling class, to give concessions and make compromises to help those who are most exploited by capitalism. The workers, their labor is the ones that facilitate the wealth that defines the capitalist ruling class, right? But ultimately, Trot isn't saying that the liberals and the fascists are the same. He definitely asserts that the fascists are worse. Okay, and I was also reading recently, and finally was getting around to reading this work, which is so important in understanding fascism. It's Fascism and Social Revolution by R. Palm Dutt, and he talks again about how it was the liberals or the social democrats who, when capitalism was most in crisis, who the capitalist ruling class allowed a lot of the social programs that they were calling for to be enacted, to get, sort of like, think of in terms of like FDR's New Deal. It created all these great programs that really facilitate and elevate a lot of people out of life. Now, what they do is they do that and they go, okay, we did it. And then secretly, in the beginning, now it's open, but just begin chiseling away at all those new concessions and those new programs that were created by liberals to help the workers who are being exploited, their labor being exploited, to facilitate the lifestyle of the ruling class, right? And now what we're seeing is they've pretty much essentially done away with all of the New Deal stuff. It's pretty much all gone. And
except for Social Security and food stamps.
Yeah, and holy shit, especially Social Security, man, that's huge, and they want it bad, But so this is not something that I'm making up as a modern day woke anarchist guy. That, hey, you liberals make fascism, and I'm also not saying that. I'm not saying you liberals make fascism. What I'm ultimately trying to get at, with all this said, and when you understand that the capitalist ruling class does know that, hey, man, let's let these liberals have some of this stuff because it'll placate the masses long enough for them to be distracted, and then we'll just get rid of it. We'll just get rid of all the stuff we did. But all the time, we will have maintained our capitalist ruling class, our status as the capitalist ruling class. But the role of the fascist versus the liberal is that fascist is going to be brutal as fuck in maintenance of the capitalist. Both are going to be singularly focused on the maintenance of the capitalist ruling class status quo. Okay? Just fascism is going to black bag you off the street like they did to people in Portland when Trump was president last time. It's going to be an overt, targeted fucking hatred and constant propaganda demonizing any. If you try to do anything to help anybody, you're going to be the woke liberal snowflake who's truly Mao, who's trying to starve everyone and do the communisms to everybody for ISIS and Satan. Okay, that's the way you'll be treated. Whereas I think that's worse than the liberal who's like, oh yeah, sure, oh yeah, you're hungry. Oh, we're gonna do stuff.
Yeah,
because what you know is they're not going to do shit. And if you know, give me just one section, I definitely want to let you go.
Sorry,
I know I've been talking a while, but I know that the liberals full of shit and isn't actually going to do the thing they promise. But they're not going to come after me as hard like a fascist will. So, yeah, you were going to say, Shan?
Sorry about that. I thought it was a person, but it was probably a scroll or a robin. Oh my goodness.
So my point ultimately being is I think that Trump is worse than Biden, even though they're both evil and fun.
No, I just had a thought. One time, this was when I was new to social media, which wasn't that long ago. It was like 10 years ago or something. But this friend of a friend kept, she was, stalking me and on my political posts and saying some really nasty negative stuff. Anyway, she followed me to Punks for Progress, and Aaron got a taste of it. But one time she said in a comment, oh, you're a helper. That's a bad thing. Oh, you're a helper. So what you were talking about of the difference, that's the difference. Helping is a bad thing. Well, I got to take care of myself. Well, we all do. No, but I also see the homeless vet with his dog on the corner, and I don't give a fuck if he's a vet or not. He's homeless. It's part of my community. If I can give him a bottle of water, a sandwich, $20, I'm going to do it.
No, and look, it's so true because, and it's an important distinction to make because, the liberal, even though the liberal politician, we know he's full of shit and doesn't actually care about helping.
The liberal does that and posts it on social media. Sorry.
Well, it does matter that the bully pulpit of a liberal president creates an atmosphere where it's okay to believe in helping people. Where if you have a fascist who has the bully pulpit of the president, he's going to tell you, you're fucked in the head and you're weak if you're a helper. That matters. Understand, I'm not trying to praise the liberal president for having a position better than a fascist. Okay? What a low bar. The lowest of low bars. But ultimately, it does matter. It does have an effect on the populace. Not everybody is a well-read fucking anti-capitalist leftist. The vast majority of people aren't. And they are directly influenced by what presidents say. Okay? So I come down on the side of the fascist is worse than the liberal who's tacitly supporting the fascists.
Trump will just help bomb the... Trump will fucking be like, send U.S. troops to help Israel. I already know it. They're already helping, but, it's on the down low. That's why they're there, for aid, to have eyes on shit, right? So, yeah, that's the difference. Trump will just bomb quicker, faster, and Biden will send aid and bombs.
And Trump will leave no airspace in the media discourse to even say it's okay to care about other people.
Exactly.
It'll be like, no, we have to murder, mass, and bomb, and yet, right. And that matters. That has an effect on the populace's psyche.
Mm-hmm.
It does.
So I have to say,
Please.
I was just going to say, it's been nice to have a break from the border talks. It's been, it hasn't been the flavor of the week for a while, but we have to remember the domestic issues that are going to be coming up once these two people go head to head, and it's going to be the border, it's going to be abortion, taxes, healthcare, back to those talking points again. But yeah, this supposed crisis at the border, I'm glad that it's just stopped, because we stopped talking about it. It hasn't been covered, and it must not be that big of a deal, I guess, because
I imagine that's an excellent point, and that
there's still people on camps in the desert between California and Mexico here.
Well, that brings me to the thing I've been kind of thinking about as we've been talking about this is, Biden is going to start rolling out policies that benefit people domestically in some way, whether it's surface level, whatever. If that's going to start happening, he's going to be.
That's like strategy, political strategy. You mean?
Yeah, of course, to help to he's already revamped and recently carted out the new student debt program that he's doing.
Title X for trans people. However, it doesn't include children in sports. Or sports, period. I don't know.
I think it's gonna. I can see him potentially making up the gap for the people who have abstained in their support of him over Gaza.
Mm-hmm.
See, obviously, I don't know. It's still early. It's what do we have?
I guess
May, June, July, August, September, October, November. We still have 8 months.
Not that early. I can't believe it's not. Well, I can. There's a genocide going on, and that takes precedent over everything, even the border, unfortunately. Right? That doesn't mean I've been paying attention to the border. However, the last couple of weeks I haven't been paying attention to a lot
And we're just in jury selection for the first criminal trial on Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Monday, they got all the juries for this first one. Monday, the actual fucking opening arguments begin. I think this is gonna have obviously a direct. I have no opinion on how it's going to affect the election. I have been anxious, really more. I mean, I fucking hate Trump, obviously, I'm not motivated by I can't wait to see him get reamed. I'm really fascinated and curious to see how these criminal trials are going to affect the election process. I'm an old political junkie. I'm fascinated by what happens in Washington, even though I want to revamp the whole thing and create a socialist, devoid of capitalist utopia. But it doesn't matter. I'm still super fascinated by the way power works now, and we all should be because it affects us all. But I can't wait. It's here. The moment to the border, the real quick. Trial is here, and we're going to see. We're finally going to get to see how does this affect our political process, because there is no precedence to draw. Go ahead, Chin.
The bar is the lowest I've ever seen it. That doesn't mean these presidents weren't doing shit behind the scenes. We just didn't know about it, Kennedy's. So, right. Anyway, the border, the difference. That's a big thing, Kylie, by the way, because Trump will do exactly what he did. He's gonna, the fucking Muslim ban, he's gonna Biden already, Haitians are banned? Who else? There's 3 people banned from immigrating or seeking asylum here right now. 3 countries. And I just remember Haiti.
I'm sure it's Venezuela, Cuba. What else?
Well, Cuba is an always.
Always.
Yeah, I can't.
But yeah, he's had harsh. And yeah, but I just feel like a month or two ago, it was Biden has the harshest border I mean, what was it? The far right of the House didn't pass the most conservative border bill in the history that was conceded to by the Democrats to appease Republicans. Like, it was an insane situation that was fortunate in its outcome because of the factions in the conservative party, but
because Trump literally came out and said, "Don't pass the thing. It'll be a win for Biden, and I want to get it." And he wasn't even quiet about it. And they just all fell suit, and that is what happened. And that's a thing. Again, you would think Biden would be speaking about that a lot. That, hey, I mean, he mentioned it in the State of the Union, I think, didn't he? Anyway. But yeah, you're exactly right. Like, they put this thing, it had a bunch of gross ass shit in it, this bill that Trump told the Republicans. It had all the wish list for border shit that the right has wanted. And our right-wing president, Biden, was ready to do some nasty ass shit down there. And Trump said no, because then he'll win over neocons. I think he was worried that he would win over neocon and old traditional, what Trump calls never Trumpers in the Republican Party, right? But he probably would have. So anyway. Basically, I guess we're all in agreement. We're all three solid RFK Jr. voters. That's what we're getting at.
Basically.
Did you see his sister come out and speak publicly against him?
No, I know the family put out a statement, but
I don't know what I don't know if it's a disorder or a disease, what his affliction is. But her voice is just like his. But he's saying that it's caused by it seems like maybe it's genetic if his sister has it. But anyway, it's just, I don't know.
But yeah,
it's just some people don't transition from their reptilian state into their human state as fluidly.
No, his sister's all in for Biden, of course.
That doesn't mean she's not a reptilian.
I guess.
And you're totally detached from reality, anti-Semitic conspiracy theory knowledge. It's not up to snuff here. Like, the reptilians, who are obviously Jewish, are also, they're Republicans and Democrats.
Oh, so RFK is self-hating lizard person?
Pretty much.
Okay.
And that's why, I don't know. If Marjorie Taylor Greene can get her bill passed for the space lasers, I think it's going to do wonders to help us understand a lot of this. Because the border.
Oh, cool. All right, let's wrap up this segment.
Well, I think that's a great.
Or do you want to talk about something?
No, that's a great segue into a January 6th defendant moment.
Oh God!
Because one of the reasons I want to do this is, one, it's fun to see January 6th.
It's my least favorite topic.
Rioting insurrectionists. Well, I like seeing these insurrectionists unhappy because they earned it, because they're fucking awful, terrible people. They genuinely are off. Fuck politics and whatever. These are fucking awful people. There's exceptions.
Some of these people are straight up neo-Nazis.
And they're unhinged, violent, awful fucking people, man. Some of them got tricked and duped, and unfortunately, maybe well-meaning. I mean, fuck you. You bought into a fascist fucking coup attempt, so fuck you. Get what you get. But anyway, this is kind of a longer video. These are there's a channel called Raw News and Politics, and the host, she covers a bunch of different stuff and politics stuff. And the only ones I ever watch is when she focuses on the J6 defendants, and especially the sentencing videos, because you get to hear them, like, court transcripts of what these people say in their defense. And oh my gosh, so many of, like, you just can't wait when the video starts. It's like, is she gonna say it? Is she gonna say it? Yes, they defended themselves. Because you love it when they like say, I don't want a public defender. Oh God, because then it's just priceless, the stuff that they say, and you know that they're going to get one of the more harsher sentencing. So now, speaking of harsher sentencing, where I do disagree with the host of Raw News and Politics is she is a typical liberal who believes that prison serves as deterrent, and so she's constantly calling for harsher sentencing. Now, I relate to her disgust and angst towards these people completely, and I think that there has to be a price to pay, and there's some of them who definitely need to be separated from society. There's a lot of really violent, unhinged people that participated in that riot. But I'm a anti-slavery leftist abolitionist and a slavery abolitionist, and I'm never going to be calling for harsher sentencing or anything that supports the Karlsruhe state. So I just think that's an important distinction and disclaimer to make before we go into these videos. But her reporting is honest and accurate and verifiable. You can fact check her, and you'll find that she's just providing the information, court, transcripts and stuff accurately. Again, this is kind of a longer video. It's about 12 minutes. We may or not get through the whole thing. We'll just kind of stop it and go and stop and go and talk as we go. So,
Okie dokie.
Yeah, let's bring that in, yo.
Patrick Montgomery was in court. Jonathan Manapa will stay in.
Can we turn it down a little bit? Wow.
No, I don't take responsibility at all.
There we go.
And welcome to the show. 51-year-old Kansas resident and Army veteran William Crestman was a second-degree member of the Proud Boys when he took part in the Capitol attack. In the lead up to January 6th, he participated in group chats with the others. They were gladly anticipating violence. Crestman was discussing what weapons he could take to the Capitol, and when he found out that he couldn't bring a gun, he responded with a frowning emoji, and then he said that he would have to settle for a, quote, wood flag staff. So on January 6th, Crestman was seen.
Okay, pause it, please.
He was wearing a tactical vest.
So right off the bat, I think this is incredibly important. And you'll see this across the board in these videos. If you go and you look at your channel and you look at her videos that she's done, the right wing, the talking point is one of a few things. Either Antifa made us do it, which is hilarious. So your mortal enemy in the universe went, hey, go do this horribly illegal thing. And y'all went, okay, and got duped by your mortal enemy. Come on, really rethink that argument. Plus no anti-fascist.
Because we're not smart soy boys.
And plus, Shan, I know you'll back me on this. Historically, the anti-fascists, especially all throughout the Trump years, the line was almost dogmatically, you always turn out to counter the fash. Without exception, anytime. And anytime anyone ever said, hey, maybe don't go and counter-demonstrate against the fash, you'd be like, wondering if you're a cop. Like, you just always counter the fash. But universally, across the board, we on the left and experienced anti-fascists were like, let them have this. Don't go. If you want to go, lay low. It was the one time we all said, yeah, we're not as leftists, who most of us are either anarchists or communists. Most of us that are anti-fascists or antifas. We're not going to go and defend a bourgeois capitalist run fucking state. No, that's not what we do. We'll go out and put our bodies on the line and defend members of our community who are otherwise marginalized by that capitalist funded fucking state, that systemically racist fucking state. But we're not going to go and risk ourselves defend that shit from a bunch of fucking fascists. Like, let the fash fight the fash.
No, we knew they were going to get shut down. We didn't have to shut them down because we knew what they were up to, right?
Exactly. And so the other aspect of that is they were loud as fuck all over the internet leading up to this, going, we're going to storm the Capitol. That's what they were all saying. Hashtag storm the Capitol. I got this weapon. Did you get that weapon? We got it because we're going to do this. And then they get there and go, Antifa made us do it. Or it was the feds. It's so ridiculous. So I just really wanted to sort of emphasize that point, that he was online ahead of time talking about the weapons he can or can't bring when they go do this thing that, come on, we all knew this was no secret. And again, they all live streamed themselves doing it. So whenever you hear one of them talk about, well, the mainstream media got J6 wrong, I don't remember on that day, Shan, all of us P4P people had like our different 5 right-wingers live streams that we were watching. We were watching them live stream themselves do that shit. I wasn't
They
watching
tore up
MSNBC's
CNN.
version of it.
Remember the CNN booth?
Yep, they went and
They
wrecked all
tore
their
it up.
cameras and all that shit.
And
Yeah.
media said, fuck this, and got out.
So we can let it go, but I think it's just important to emphasize this was no secret. They were broadcasting it loudly. So anytime you hear any argument about them being motivated by anything other than them wanting to do this to defend their dear frickin' fascist leader, is full of shit. Yeah, thank you.
And gloves. The gloves had knuckle guards, and he had a helmet with him attached to his vest. And the helmet had an orange strip of duct tape on it. So you may have heard about this. A bunch of the Proud bigots were seen with these orange pieces of tape, whether it was on their hats or their helmets, sometimes on their clothing. They did that so that they could easily identify each other in the crowd. Well, Crestman was also carrying a 2-foot-long axe handle, and it was wrapped in an American flag. And the government says that Crestman purchased the axe just one day before, January 5th, or the axe handle, and he wrapped it in the flag so that no one would know he was carrying a weapon. When Crestman approached the mob that was gathered at Peace Circle and he saw everyone getting physical with the police, knocking over the barricades, he rushed to the front of the crowd and he basically assisted in all of that melee. So Crestman and the others chased the retreating police officers. They went to the next line that was formed, and then Crestman was seen waving for the crowd to move forward towards the police. When the officers took someone into custody, Crestman turned around to the mob and he yelled, quote, "Don't let them take him." And then shortly after that, the mob surged forward again. They overran that newly formed police line. And eventually, the police were forced to start deploying non-lethal munitions. So they were deploying, as we all know, rubber bullets and tear gas, pepper spray. So Crestman was seen and heard on video. He pointed his axe handle at the police and he threatened, quote, "Hey, if you shoot, I'll fucking take your ass out." So sometime later, Crestman was seen and heard leading a call and response from the crowd.
I have been on the street on numerous occasions where cops have unloaded on us rubber bullets and fucking chemicals and smoke bombs and all that shit. And never once have I ever seen a leftist physically threaten a cop. Ever. I've never seen it. Ever. Ever. You know why? Because they'll fucking kill us. Know that. Know that. You're a leftist on the street? Shit. You're a black trans leftist on the street and you walk up to a cop and go, "You fuck with me, I'll kill you." You're dead. You're dead. Or you get your brains bashed in and you go to prison on assault charges. Like, just give me a fucking break. And so I got no sympathy for these fucking right-wing motherfuckers who are getting shot with rubber bullets and tear gas. But I gotta say, and then we'll get back to it, unless you guys have want to also chime in on this. But this was no peaceful tourist event. These people antagonized and took on the cops, man. And I've said some nasty shit that I like to tell them they're criminals, and I'll say shit like that. But you don't threaten a cop. Like, give me a break. Give me a break. And the peaceful tourists.
No, we say stuff like, who do you protect? Who do you serve?
That's right. That's right.
He yelled, quote, "Whose house is this? Mine." And then he said, "Do you want your house back?" And, quote, "Take it." So after a while, the mob started to lift up and shove the barricades against the police. And Crestman was seen on video assisting in that push as well. A short time after that, Crestman was seen wearing a gas mask and he was pointing his axe handle at the police kind of in a menacing manner. The government didn't explain how he came into possession of that mask, so I'm not sure. Crestman and the others then ultimately broke through that police line. Again, they made their way onto the Upper West Terrace. He continued to incite the mob. He continued yelling things like "our house" and "whose house" and "take your house." Then Crestman was bragging to others around him. He said, quote, "We were the ones in front." And then he was thanking them as if they were just supporting cast in his movie. It was like, "Hey, thanks for your help back there, helping us to get through there." So then Crestman was seen illegally entering the building a short time after that, and it was shortly after the initial breach. So he led more call and response chants in the Capitol. Crestman and his co-defendants, which were Corey, or two of them, I should say, are Corey and Felicia Canal. That was the brother and sister from Arizona. They all headed to the Capitol crypt, and after the mob overran the officers in that room, they chased after the police. The officers retreated down a set of stairs to the visitor center, and they were trying to pull down the metal doors to block the mob from entering the Capitol crypt. Well, Crestman and the others blocked the doors. So that's the infamous video that I know you've all seen that was filmed of the Proud Bigots and other people. They were throwing things at the police. They were blocking the doors with their bodies, with various objects. So Crestman was seen on video. He was holding his axe handle over his head to try to prevent the metal door from descending. Then he and the others followed the police into the visitor center, and he was seen on video preventing the arrest of another member of the mob. So approximately 26 minutes after he initially entered the Capitol, he exited the building. And then following the Capitol attack, Crestman recorded some of his telephone calls for some reason. So the police were able to get, or the FBI was able to get a hold of these phone calls. And he was boasting to one person, quote, "We had the cops running through the fucking state building, dude, trying to slam the emergency doors, like the big garage door type ones that segregate off the rooms. And we were throwing fucking chairs under there to block it, dude, to keep going down, dude. And there was so much CS gas in there and shit, dude. And like, dude, the cops were legitimately scared for their fucking lives." Dude, you're so fucking cool, dude. You're so tough.
Dude, I'm so high on adrenaline right now, dude.
This is so indicative of all of them, too. They were all so far up their own asses, thinking this is the moment. Zombie apocalypse is here, fam, and we're just we're doing it, dude. We're heroes,
We're killing
dude.
Pizzagate.
I mean, oh my god. And then when the shit gets real, they're like, no, it was Antifa, and we were just gonna peaceful it. We God, and listening, even though she doesn't do dramatic readings, I kind of like the way she quotes them. Dude. It is so, this is what he was saying. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's duh. And listening to how arrogantly freaking stupid they are, man.
Like, dude, bro, man.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Dude, when you're, outnumbering the police by thousands to one. Right. Sorry. If you didn't know, that last part was me. That was not him. Anyway, it just makes so much sense sometimes why some of these people supported Trump, doesn't it? Anyway, in another call, Crestman said that he and other Proud Bigots went to the Capitol because, quote, "our piece of shit Vice President Pence was going to cuck under and not do the right thing with the votes." And in a third call, he was heard bragging, quote, "we stormed the Capitol building and we took it over. We made the House leave, like they couldn't finish their vote." So Crestman was arrested on February 11th of 2021, and he was charged with conspiracy, obstructing an official proceeding, civil disorder, threatening a federal officer, entering restricted building or grounds with a dangerous weapon, and disorderly conduct in a restricted building or grounds with a dangerous weapon. In October
Pause it real quick.
2023,
So 4 of those were standard, and I'm not going to get them all. But the enhancements, every one of these gets obstructing police grounds. This is the one that the Supreme Court recently is talking about, whether that's doable or not. The obstructing the event or proceeding, a governmental proceeding. But trespassing on grounds, all of those 6 or 7 things she said, the enhancements were assaulting the officer. Actually, can you back it up just a little bit and wait, where she reads those again?
C, obstructing an official proceeding, civil disorder, threatening a federal officer, entering restricted building or grounds with a dangerous weapon, and disorderly conduct in a restricted building or grounds with a dangerous weapon. In October of 2023, Cressman pleaded guilty to the obstruction charge as well as threatening a federal officer. And based on the obstruction conviction, which carries more weight, he was facing up to 20 years in prison, 3 years of probation, and $250,000 in fines. However, the prosecutor requested only 63 months in prison, 3 years of probation, and $2,000 in restitution. At his sentencing hearing, Cressman apologized to everyone that he affected with his actions, including his wife and 3 daughters. And Cressman told the judge that he felt, quote, intoxicated by the excitement of the crowd. But he said, quote, I now see my statements and actions in a much truer light. I'm ashamed of what I said and did that day, and ashamed my daughters saw them. He added, quote, there are many things I regret saying, and for that I am truly sorry. I'm sorry that police and people were injured and scarred by January 6. U.S. District Judge Timothy Kelly presided over Cressman's case, and he referred to January 6 as a, quote, national disgrace. And this is a Trump appointee, by the way. And Judge Kelly also said that Cressman's victims were, quote, not just the law, but the people who make the law and the machinery of our system that ensures the peaceful transition of presidential power. In regard to Cressman's incitement of the mob, the judge told him, quote, I can't recall seeing a more direct encouragement to rioters that day to run through police and go to the building than that. However, Judge Kelly did buy into Cressman's remorse. As you can tell, I don't. In the end, he sentenced Cressman to 55 months in prison, 3 years of probation, and $2,000 in restitution. Cressman is one of the few who's been in prison since his arrest, so he's going to receive credit for the roughly 35 months that he's already served. Like I said, I'm not buying this. I'm not buying his remorse. Okay, I think it's a bunch of BS. This is one of the...
Okay, we don't need to listen to more from her because she's gonna complain. She always wants harsher sentencing. That's
I don't buy into his remorse either. He's sorry he got
I don't
caught.
either.
They all are.
I don't either. I have heard some people who are like, oh shit, like you can tell they like I bought into some when they start talking about. I bought into a bunch of stuff a few years ago that led me to this horrible, that's a little different than, oh man, my kids are embarrassed because I acted like an ass and got caught. Totally different. But the sentence that he ultimately got, which is, I can never do the 63 months ratio to 12 in a year, but roughly around 6 years is a little more than most of these guys are getting. I think on average, we've seen like 2 or 3 years. But he had those 3 different enhancements of the legitimate violence and going against cops and stuff. Right? But that obstructing a official proceeding thing, that's where the 20 years potentially comes from. That has a potential for 20 years. It's one of the reasons why leftists are kind of like, I don't know if we should be using this. Why they're asking that question whether we should be supporting this. Because... one of the main primary purposes of civil disobedience and direct action on the street is to disrupt the status quo and say, hey, you're fucking shitting on Right. Like, so you can't just. So it's an argument I think that needs to be had. I'm not saying I have a definitive answer either way on that, but that's the one that holds to 20 years. But I just think, man, they all have their different details in all these different videos, and as we show more of these as we go on throughout the weeks and show some more of these, there's a lot of recurring themes. There is the talking it up on live stream ahead of time and the build up to it, and them being on a huge adrenaline rush and bragging while they're doing it, and then for the first couple of days afterwards being like, "Dude, we stormed the fuck out of that shit," and then it's like people start getting arrested and they start deleting all their shit, and whatever.
Yeah, they were. It was just like when they would go to beat up the Antifas, right? But this was the actual politicians.
Yeah, and we would see that in all, prior to all these different fast rallies throughout the Trump years of them talking, and they're, ultimately a unicorn riot and other people leaked a lot of these chats and stuff, but we knew that they were going to these rallies in hopes to fight people like us. And if anti-fascists weren't there, if a black wasn't there, they just would have found a black kid or a trans person and beat the shit out of them.
Beat them up.
And that's what they went there. It wasn't because they believe in some policy or whatever. Policy is just their excuse to go out and get in fights and be badass.
Yeah, because they beat up homeless people all the time.
So yeah, unless anybody has any more thoughts they want to say on this, I think we could start looking at picking, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 more topics to talk about. No, this is really great. I really enjoyed doing it.
Yeah, it's so good to see you, Shannon.
And got a So-Cal Shannon Scene Report out of it.
It's good to see you too. And by the way, I really like your hair.
Yours is long. Yours is so long.
I need to cut this off. This is ridiculous. Oh my god, it's insane. It's pure laziness. I'm like, I'm not coloring it again.
Your hair looks alright.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
That was a What the Fuck report, fam. We did a whole entire What the Fuck report. Also,
Aaron's
if you look on the channel,
Austin or Mohawk, just naturally. Mohawk, I said that.
Yeah,
right.
It's just the color. It's just this patch hasn't.
Mine's on the
side
sides.
as much.
My sideburns
the same lane.
are solid silver.
But I was gonna say, also on our channel, I put up a new All Vinyl Revolt live stream where throughout the years I've kind of sporadically done PBR. What is it? I can't even remember what it's. Punk Rock Final, PBR, and Pizza, where I would stream for about 3 hours just playing random stuff from my record collection. And instead of what I've done is I'm kind of picking the best songs from the albums I've been listening to throughout the week and keeping a list of it and then playing those specific songs. So I did that. Finally, I did one of those on this Friday, and I think I'm going to start doing this a little more regularly. So keep an eye out, or you don't have to keep an eye out. It's on the channel. All Vinyl Revolt. Excuse me. Kylie's going to start doing a whole series on health videos and launching her channel. So that's coming up. And I'm doing keep an eye out for my media literacy series. And unless there's anything more anybody has to
I'm
say.
good. It's great to see you guys, and we'll chat more. Free Palestine. Yes.
Free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
What the fuck?
Excellent, fam. We'll see you next time on the What the Fuck Report.
you.